Hi, everyone. This is Grace Smith with the Wise News Network, and we have a very special guest today. This is Matt Aldridge, and he is a New Year's shooter. Matt, how are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing pretty well.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Absolutely. It's no worries. And Rusty has told me that this was your first year shooting with the shooters. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience?
It was an incredible experience. I came and watched the shooters last year, and the experience of shooting is so much more than as a spectator in terms of watching last year. Experiencing the family histories of the host and the cordialness of having them. We would thank, the shooters would often thank them for having us. And so many times they're, no, thank you for being here. And just understanding that was part of their family New Year tradition, not only just as a town New Year tradition, but those specific families as well. Mm-hmm. So it was almost them thanking us for fulfilling that tradition for their family as well. And realizing that a lot of them actually had kind of a family reunion of sorts. They would gather and anticipate us arriving. Didn't expect that at all. I didn't anticipate when we would shoot. It was kind of we would shoot and scramble to get back to the car so you could make it to the next location. But it was just so much more than I expected. And then my son, who's technically my stepson, but I look at it as my son, we spent 18 hours in the car together. And so it was just such a bonding experience between him and I as well. So there was so many aspects of it that I didn't anticipate as a spectator, and then this year as a first-time shooter.
Wow, that's very poignant. It seems like the family ties is something that really keeps this tradition alive and well here in Cherryville.
It is, and that was something that I wasn't really aware of, this being my first year as a shooter. I grew up on the other side of Gaston County, right on the North-South Carolina line. And so not being from Cherryville, and I moved in almost 2 years ago. And so not really being familiar with all the different family heritage and all the different families that have generations here, didn't really anticipate how all the family connections worked as far as that go. And some of these shooters go back so many generations, and just getting a small understanding of that was very eye-opening to what the tradition is.
That's awesome. And what made you inspired to participate this year instead of watching?
So last year I watched one or two locations and then the finale. And I'm a huge history fan. Mm-hmm. And so I had a small glimpse into the history at that point, not nearly what I understand of it now. And then I've always been a sportsman. So the idea of being able to share my love of history, my love of sportsmen in terms of any kind of hunting, fishing kind of traditions and that sort of thing as well. It was kind of a neat combination of that. And then, like I said, I had a real small glimpse of the tradition aspect. And so I thought, man, that would be a fantastic way to celebrate the new year. And so I kind of decided last year at the finale, I really want to participate in this year. And then growing up at the edge on the other side of Gaston County, it's something I'd heard about for years. I just never really knew how to be a part. And then when I moved here, I thought, oh yeah, this is where that happens. This is where I've been hearing about for years. And so then when it came around New Year's last year, I thought, I got to go watch this thing. And then after having watched, it was, okay, I got to go do this. I got to participate.
Great. And as someone who's recently, within the past couple years, moved to the area, has participating in this tradition and observing this tradition made you feel a little bit closer with the community?
Absolutely. I really come to love the community and appreciate so many different aspects of the community. And this was just adding to that, adding to participating in something that so many other folks that have lived here forever, just so many generations back, being able to participate in with them, and then experiencing the camaraderie with the other shooters. Being a first-time shooter, I'd never shot anything black powder at all, knew very little about it. and had bought the musket in the spring last year, anticipating shooting this year. And most of the spring and summer, I had tried to reach out to people that I thought may be knowledgeable of black powder, different sporting goods stores, that sort of thing, and struggled to find information. And as soon as I came to the meeting and then especially began shooting that New Year's Eve night, everybody was very knowledgeable. And when they realized I was a first-time shooter, they checked on me over and over. Is everything working right? Do you need anything? And at one point, the musket didn't work. It didn't fire. And I had several people help me to remedy the problems I was running into. So very helpful, very friendly, tons of camaraderie, willing to do whatever they could to help you. And there was a lot of appreciation that we were new. Sometimes when you do something that you're new to, you're not kind of brought in immediately, but that was not the case with this at all. It was, you're new. Okay, great. We love to have you. What can we do to assist you with, just a great atmosphere from that perspective as well.
Great. And was it your son's first time shooting as well?
It was, and he actually didn't get to attend last year to watch.
Okay.
So I had told him about it, shown him pictures and video from the finale and that sort of thing from last year. So he knew that it was something he wanted to participate in, but he really had no comprehension of what it was truly about. And so that was it was a totally new experience to him, but he had a fantastic time. And it was a bonding experience for he and I as well. We spent 18 hours together, either shooting or in the car together. And it was just a great bonding time for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rusty was telling me that hundreds of people participated this year. And with such a large gathering and group of people, I'm sure you encounter a lot of exciting and interesting moments that happened over the course of that 18 hours. Do you have any anecdote that really stands out in your mind from this past New Year's shooting?
Yeah, I think the number this year was over 500. When I saw the group picture, once the group picture was out, it really struck me at that point. Wow. When we were shooting, you see a lot of people, but you don't really have a grasp of just how many. So to see that group picture was like, wow, that was a lot of people. There was so many different moments. There were several times where we'd see people who were either past shooters or had just been involved in the tradition one way or another. And they were either at an age or health issue that they just couldn't really make it out. And to see them really appreciate us being there and appreciate what the tradition meant to them and seeing their face and just how it just brought part of the holiday season to them. The Christmas, New Year was in some ways almost like watching a child at Christmas time, seeing how it just kind of warmed them to experience the shooters. Sometimes they sat in a garage because they couldn't really come out to, it was cold and they couldn't really come out to where it was cold. It was one location, they couldn't come out on the porch. And so the leadership of the shooters actually went in and did the chant with them inside. And we all were as close as we could to a window to hear the chant. And somebody stood by the window and would repeat the chant, or at least certain lines of the chant, to us, so we would kind of know where they were along through the chant. So to know that those people, even in whatever age or health they were, that couldn't participate in the way that they were used to in years past, that it still meant so much that they wanted us there. And then the shooters doing whatever they could to accommodate so that they could experience it. That meant a lot.
That's very touching. It seems like the New Year's shooters are leaders of this community and really try to do everything that they can to get the community involved to whatever capacity each individual might need. And I think this is a perfect example of why this tradition has stuck around so long. And as a history buff like yourself, why do you think it's so important to keep these kinds of traditions alive?
Well, like you said, a lot of the shooters are, in one way or another, they're pillars of the community. They are, and this is something that I came to appreciate through shooting this year, is that so many of the names that I had heard, people mention, but I never got to meet them for one reason or another. And so, but when you look at their ancestry, that this family's been here for so many generations, and this family's been here for so many generations. So it's interesting when you can connect that with what they do for this community. And it was so enlightening to see people that were in the past so influential in the community, and they were just up in age or health, that it was still such a vital part to them to be able to participate in whatever way they were able to. I think they call him Little Boozy. He wanted to shoot, and his health or what, he had a tough time. And there were several shooters that went to assist him, stood behind him, helped hold a musket, whatever he needed, so that he could shoot. Things like that. And I'm terrible with some of the names and don't know some of these families that well, but I think it was Charlie Sisk. He been doing this for 70 some odd years.
Wow.
And I was able to get a picture of him shooting. And these guys are local legends. And to be able to catch a picture of him in his 75th year of shooting, and to be able to catch a picture of him shooting was just, it was amazing to me to be able to have that picture. It was,
That might be in a history book someday.
Yeah, so many of these people are just such pillars of the community and the tradition that it may very well be in history books. In history too, one of the last shoots before the finale, they shot at the cemetery, and they shot over some graves of past shooters. And when my son got back to the car, I mentioned to him the smoke hung just over the tombs, over the markers. And I mentioned to him, I said, wow, it's kind of eerie, that smoke sitting right over their headstones. And he looked at me, he said, I don't think that's eerie at all. And I said, okay, what do you mean? He said, it's almost like at a military funeral. It's such a sign of respect. And I said, wow, his insight as a 12-year-old that I hadn't really thought of. I said, you're right. It is a sign of respect. And I didn't mean it in a disrespectful way. It was just, to me, seeing that smoke, it kind of caught me off guard a little bit, but he truly understood it as, that's a sign of respect. That's the current shooters being able to honor past shooters. And it struck me that at 12, he understood that. He got that.
Wow. That's honestly made me pretty emotional. Just that image that I have in my head, that is a truly beautiful image. And your son, he seems very, very insightful to have picked up on something like that.
There was another moment where there was a young man who said the chant, and he got very emotional. And it was touching to so many of the shooters. And as we left, one of the other shooters said he did that in honor of his grandfather who's passed. And his grandfather was a very influential shooter in years past. And it was very touching to see. He finished the chant, but about 3/4 of the way, he got very emotional. And that became very emotional for everybody that was there, myself included, and especially once I understood why. When somebody spoke to me and said, yeah, he did that in honor of his grandfather. And my grandfather and I were very close. And so it reminded me of the times that me and my grandfather shared as well.
So off camera, you were telling us a little bit about how you have some experience as an Olympic athlete. You have done strength training your entire life. And can you tell me a little bit about what got you interested in participating in strength training? And did you have to train at all for this New Year's shooting event?
Well, I started working out at 13, and I have a bad hip, and so the doctors recommended that I do something to stay in shape. That at that point I walked on prosthetics, and they said, at some point you're going to be in a chair, and you need to find something to stay in shape, keep your strength up. And so I signed up for a basic weight training class, and I just kept chasing that down. I fell in love with it, and that culminated in 2004 with the Paralympic Games, and I finished up 9th in the world there. And the best I ever bench press was 445 pounds. Wow. And just chased it down. And so several of the shooters mentioned to me, man, you're tough. At one point, we had parked in the wrong place. And there's so many shooters, and you're just trying to figure out where to park. And we went up a hill, and it was a pretty lengthy hill, and it was pretty steep. And we went up, and we were probably halfway of the distance that we went. And there were some other shooters that came up beside us, and I asked them, I said, "Are we headed the right direction?" They said, "We think so." So we kept going, and finally we came to the end of the cars and realized, oh my goodness, we've gone the wrong direction. So we turned around and went back, and we were able to make it in time to join the shoot. But several of the shooters commented to me along the way, like, "Wow, you're making it to the shoots. And it's just once you decide you're going to do something, you just do it. You just jump in there. And I wouldn't have wanted to miss out on shoots. I wouldn't have wanted to miss the experience. Wouldn't have wanted to miss the time with my son. And so once you decided to do something, you just jump in there and do it. That was a lesson that I learned through all the years of lifting as well. Mm-hmm. And I try to use that talking to my kids, and they're probably tired of hearing about it. But there's so many lessons that I learned through all those competitive experience that translate to life. Mm-hmm. And so whether you're talking about the lifting experience that I have or the shooting experience, there's so many of those different things that just transfer to life skills and to how to carry out your life.
Determination.
Absolutely. If you're gonna do something, you got to be determined to carry it out. And that was what happened with lifting. Once I realized this is something that I could do at a competitive level, and this is something that I can do at a big level, at a national, at an international level. I started out as something I did just for my own personal benefit to stay in shape. And once I realized there was something else that could be gained through it, I just would chase it down and go to one meet and do well. And I'd ask my college coach, my international coach, okay, where's the next meet? What do we got to do to keep going? And you just keep, and for years I just kept chasing that down. Where's the next thing? Where's it at? And okay, it's in Wales. Okay, we go to Wales. Okay, it's in Malaysia. Okay, we go to Malaysia. Okay, what do I got to do to do well there? Well, you need to be pushing this kind of weight to do well, to keep qualifying, to keep going. And so it's just a process of just continuing to push through.
And we talked a little earlier about, how you are obviously a history buff, but also extremely patriotic.
Absolutely.
Participating on the international scale and getting to represent your country, is that one of the reasons why you have become such a patriotic individual?
It is. It is a couple different things. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. Mm. And so from an early age, I talked to him about his experiences in World War II. From a competitive level, I was on Team USA for quite a few years and got some unique experiences there. I was able to be a flag bearer at one point. I was able to meet some foreign dignitaries and represent the United States in that, in terms of at opening ceremonies when we were in Malaysia. I got to be, they picked one representative from each country to meet one of their dignitaries. And you would go forward, shake his hand, meet him. He would present a gift on behalf of Malaysia. And so I still have it. It's like a golden medallion. I still have that. So representing our country and understanding that our flag is different than any other flag in the world. Mm-hmm. At one point, they had flags from all over the world lined up, leaning against the wall, and our flag got bumped, and it was gonna hit the ground, and I jumped on the floor and grabbed it. And other countries laughed at me and said, "What are you doing? It's a piece of cloth." I said, our flag's not a piece of cloth. It means way much, so much more. That's way more than just a piece of cloth to us. And other countries don't view their flag that way. And I think one of the things that in our country is happening so much right now is younger people don't have an appreciation for what we have here in the United States. It's really not their fault. It's the previous generation for not teaching them. And so I'm trying to do that within our family, is to teach them what our national anthem means to us, what our flag means to us, what our Pledge of Allegiance. When they hear the national anthem, stop what you're doing. Pay attention. Find the closest flag you can put your eyes on. Put your hand over your heart. Those are things that the current generation oftentimes doesn't really understand. They don't know about. So it's our job as a previous generation to teach them those things.
And to kind of switch gears just a little bit, this is an 18-hour ordeal. Yes. And it's obviously a lot of fun. It's very touching. It's a lot. But were there ever any challenges that you encountered throughout the process of this day? And how did you overcome those challenges?
There really weren't a ton of challenges. I think the biggest challenge that was maybe it's just trying to keep up to some degree. Mm-hmm. And with that, I just mean as a first-time shooter, you can't really comprehend how much you shoot. You scramble to get back to the car and off to the next one. And so I just mean challenge in terms of it was really fast-paced. Afterward, my wife said, "I didn't think y'all would make it 18 hours. I thought y'all would come home and take a nap and then go rejoin later. How did you stay awake?" And I said, "You can't really understand how fast-paced this is until you do it." It was somewhat of a race back to the car, mm-hmm. And then it was trying to keep up. There were several U-Hauls and very unique vehicles, so we'd get in the car and my son would like, "Just follow that U-Haul," so, and they were really decorated and festive and that sort of thing, so that it made that a lot of fun. But yeah, that was probably the biggest challenge, is just being able to stay on pace with everything. I think they allot 20 minutes per shoot, and in some regards that sounds like a lot of time, but it's really not. It's really not. By the time you shoot and you try to show appreciation for the host family, a lot of the families provided some sort of a snack. So you get the snack and then you shoot and then you get back to the car. And 20 minutes goes by really fast, really, really fast. But we had a couple struggles with the musket, but people were really quick to help remedy that as well. So really not a ton of challenges. Any challenge that I would have met, somebody was right there to lend a helping hand. There were several times when other shooters would actually hand me their musket and want me to shoot their musket. And it was kind of a neat experience almost. They enjoyed getting to share their musket, mm-hmm. and I enjoyed, shooting something different. And each one seems to have a little different feel. And I couldn't have really anticipated that, one musket to another. They don't all feel the same in terms of the power behind it, as far as, how it handles, that kind of thing. So they would kind of look at, "Hey, you want to try this one? It feels a little different," So sharing that. And one of the other challenges, I guess, would be the first couple of times I shot it, musket came out of my hands, mm-hmm. and pretty big guy, strong. I didn't anticipate that. Didn't really anticipate what it would feel like. Never shot black powder, and I think my son only dropped it one time, and I know I dropped it more than one time. So it was, he looked at me at one point and said, "I think this thing's a little bit about luck." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You get all the bad luck, and I get all the good luck."
He seems like a very smart kid.
He is. He's got a lot of interesting quirks, but he's a really smart kid. Yeah.
And I noticed from pictures that you had some American flag duct tape wrapped around your gun. Is there any particular reason why you chose that tape? Did you want to bring in kind of some patriotism and some pride for your country into it as well?
Absolutely. This is a tradition here that goes back to at least the time of our nation's founding, and very likely goes back prior to us truly being a country, to settlements before we were actually a country. And so there's a patriotic aspect there. I'm a huge patriotic person, and was able to represent our country in an athletic manner previously. And so our flag, our country, means a lot to me. And so to be able to do that, we put clamps on the barrels, different things like that to help. And then we covered those clamps with electrical tape, trying to make sure that there's no edges to catch you or anything like that. And then once we had done all that, we covered it in the American flag tape. And so I told my son, I said, well, I think, we should maybe nickname the gun. And there was an old song, country song, that is about the Battle of New Orleans. And I believe it was in 1814, in the War of 1812. And in that song, they talk about firing the cannon until the barrel melted down. And they talk about Andrew Jackson. They called him Old Hickory, and the words that he had spoken to his troops about waiting till they saw the British. And so that's what we actually named the musket. We wrote on the side Old Hickory. So kind of as a tribute to American history in that regard as well. Wow. So yeah, a very patriotic person, and very have a deep appreciation of history and how much this country means to me. And part of this was interesting in being able to share that with my son as well. Mm-hmm. And we have a blended family. There's 7 of us, and we're trying to figure out what to do, because I think all 7 of us want to shoot next year. So we're trying to figure all that out, the logistics of we might be one of those folks in a U-Haul next year.
You should. That's awesome. That's awesome, honestly, because we talked about earlier just the family ties and connections that are in association with this tradition.
With a blended family, we started new traditions. Mm-hmm. We found it was hard to hang on to the tradition from our past families. And so we decided to start some new traditions, Christmas and that sort of thing. And so this is a new tradition for us. And I think moving forward, our other kids have asked my son, so you think you'll shoot next year? He said, there's no thinking I'm shooting next year. And he's already trying to figure out how to save birthday money and Christmas money. So he said, I want to buy another musket. I want to buy plenty of powder. We didn't use enough powder this year and things like that. And he's actually joked around a lot. He said, you need to buy a gun because that one's mine. So it's a tradition that we're already looking forward to next year and planning for next year.
Wow, that's awesome. And there are quite a few different shooters groups in this area. Is there anything that drew you to the Cherryville New Year's shooters specifically?
I think the big thing was knowing a few shooters in the group. I knew people in both groups. I had gotten to know Rusty a little bit, just in some communication for some other community things that just wanted to talk about. And not being from the area, just kind of learning about kind of the workings of the community and different things. And so he and I have been in communication a little bit. And so I knew that he was very, very involved in the group, in the leadership, and have a lot of appreciation for all the hard work he puts into it. And from what I had learned, this was the original group and everything. So, I don't have anything against any other groups, but it just seemed like this would maybe be a good place to learn about the traditions, being that they were the original group, and I knew some of the leadership, and so I just thought this would be a great place to learn about it and just jump in there and experience it.
Okay. And do you have any advice that you would give to somebody who might be on the fence of whether or not they want to participate next year? How would you encourage them to participate in this tradition?
I think one of the biggest things is learn more about it in terms of the history. I think even if people aren't necessarily a history buff like I am, like my son is, being able to learn the local history and the families involved. And I'm terrible with names, but like I know the Carpenters, I think the Stroups, the Beams, some of these families have been involved for generations. So even if you aren't a history person in terms of the American history involved, the history of the shooting itself, to learn how all that connects to local families here, that's a big deal. And it's a big deal to this community. It's a big deal to those families. That's one thing that I would recommend in terms of just learning. Get your musket as early as you can and start to familiarize with yourself with it, and go ahead and make the modifications you need as early on as you can. One of the gentlemen recommended that we cut the barrel down because it's a little easier, especially for a first-time shooter. It's a little easier to handle. We did that at 8 o'clock the night before. So, we were kind of scrambling at the last minute to make some modifications, things like that. Buy more powder than you think you'll need because you'll go through it a lot quicker than you think you will. My son kept saying, give me more powder, give me more powder. And I said, okay, well, we got to kind of pace through it so that we have plenty for the finale. I think we went through at least a quarter, close to a half pound just at the finale. So, and that's what I kept telling us. We got to save powder for the finale. And we did. We had enough. But we could have went through a whole lot more if we weren't being cautious with it. But yeah, just and anticipate that it's a long night, but it's absolutely worth it. So many experiences that I just could not have anticipated. So many moments that I'm so glad we did it, and I'm so much looking forward to next year and hopefully many, many years moving forward. But those moments that I didn't anticipate, the emotional moments, the exciting moments, the friendship moments, there's just so many different experiences. You hit every range of emotions in terms of the excitement, the solemnness when they're firing over the graves of past shooters, the touching moments when the young man was saying the chant and you knew he was struggling to get through it. But even not knowing him, you're proud of him for getting through it. I mean, it's just every range of human emotion you can experience was experienced in the course of that 18 hours.
Wow. That is truly touching, and I greatly appreciate you coming into our studio and talking with us about this today.
I appreciate y'all having me.
Of course, it's our pleasure. We love doing these sit-down interviews where you really get to just have this kind of a conversation and learn more. Is there anything you'd like to add about your experience or about the tradition in general?
I think we covered most of it. It just if you're on the fence, if you're thinking about shooting next year, do it. It was such a great experience. Even if you join and you shoot and you maybe don't go to every location, even if you maybe go to some locations and you're just there to experience it and you don't shoot. I didn't shoot at every location. My son did. And he kept asking me, why aren't you shooting? I said, son, if I shoot at every location you shoot, we won't have any powder left. And we had 3 pounds. And I asked a lot of people that, how much powder do you need? And everybody said, well, I mean, it's up to each person, and it is. We just had to start somewhere. So we got 3 pounds. Yeah, if you're thinking about it, do it. Even if you'd like to say you want to go and just shoot, every couple of, every few different locations, or just, pick 5, whatever. It's a very meaningful experience, and you'll be glad you did it. You'll be glad. And I don't think that there's any such thing as a one-time shooter. Every person that I talk to is, well, I thought I'd do this one time, and I've been doing it for 30 years or 40 years. Or the one guy I spoke to was at a host family. He said, I don't shoot everywhere, but I shoot here at the host family. And every year I say I'm not going to do it again. And every year I do it again. So, yeah, I don't think there's anybody that does it once.
It kind of sucks you in.
It does. Somebody told me, they said, this thing will get in your blood. And I wasn't quite sure what they meant, because that was said pretty early on. And by the end of the evening, he was right. This gets in your blood. It's something that you want to participate in year after year. And if you can't participate in it for whatever reason, you miss it. And I saw that in some of the host families that if they weren't able to shoot for whatever reason, they missed it. And so they truly appreciated us being there, because they were able to still participate even though they weren't able to physically shoot.
Wow. Thank you so much, Matt. We really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. I appreciate y'all having me. And I say it was a phenomenal experience. I'm glad to be able to participate shooting, as well as be able to participate here. And hopefully more people hearing about the experience will come out and shoot with us next year.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to hear from our founder, Rusty Wise, about his experience with the New Year's shooters. We have a very familiar face being interviewed today, our own founder, Rusty Wise.
Yeah, I'm on the opposite end of the table today.
How does it feel?
Great. Glad to be here. Appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. You weren't hard to get in touch with. But today we're going to be talking about Rusty's experience with the Cherryville New Year's shooters. You've been a member of this organization for a very long time.
Yes, this coming year, I think it'll be 45 years.
Wow.
Yeah, been a while.
So what got you into shooting?
Well, basically, when I was a little boy, they used to come shoot across the street from my home. And when I was a little boy, I'd watch out the window, and that was probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So every New Year's morning, I would get woken up, and that was Hal Strapp's group. And Hal Strapp just lived right down the road, and so Hal Strapp's nephew got me involved with the shooting. So he and I went the first year. That was Benji Strapp, and so been going ever since. It's once you get it in your blood, you just keep going.
That's definitely what I've heard. And your kids have even gotten involved as well, correct?
Yes, my daughter wants a musket. She shot this year, and she was shooting other people's muskets, and so she wants a musket. So I guess I'll be looking for muskets, a small one, she says. So I don't know if it'll be a pistol or if it'll be a full musket. We'll see. And my son Winston shoots. Yeah, he shot most of the night and most of the day. So yeah, he's been going for a few years, and my daughter's sounds like she's wanting to go. So it's a family tradition.
That's awesome. And we just interviewed Matt Aldridge, who shot this year. And one sentiment that he really brought into the interview is how family-oriented this tradition is. Would you also say that this has been a big family bonding moment for your family?
Well, it is. It's something we've done every New Year's as a family. And if you see a lot of families out there, I mean, you see 3 and 4 generations of families out there. Maybe even a 5 generation, believe it or not.
Wow.
I mean, there could be great grandfathers, grandfathers, sons, grandsons, great grandsons. And a lot of these people come in from all over the country, different states, and they come to Cherryville, North Carolina once a year for the Cherryville New Year's shooters. And if you don't know a little bit about the Cherryville New Year's shooters and the history, it came over from Germany area, the Alpine area, Germany, and a lot of our ancestors are from that area. So it came through Philadelphia, and the Cherryville was settled by those ancestors. And New Year's shooters been going around way before Cherryville was incorporated.
Even before the United States became a state, correct?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, even before the United States was formed, it's sort of superstitious. A lot of our culture and our traditions come from the Germany area. The Christmas tree, New Year's shooting, Saint Nick, Easter. A lot of those traditions come from that area of Europe.
That's very interesting. And I knew that about Christmas and a lot of the holidays that we celebrate, but it's interesting that customs like this have been passed down for thousands of years.
Yes, New Year's shooting has been going around for thousands of years, basically as long as black powder's been invented
Yeah.
and loud noises. And that was to scare off the witches and demons. We don't really believe that we're scaring off witches and demons, but we may be scaring some birds and some animals.
Hmm.
But the tradition itself is about camaraderie and community, and just
Absolutely.
the community that surrounds the New Year's shooting part. Now, in early days, they had musical instruments. We don't do that anymore, but we do the musket blast and the chant. And the chant, part of the chant is by John Newton that wrote Amazing Grace. Part of that is the chant. And in Philadelphia, they still have the Mummers Parade.
Hmm.
Now, years ago, they used to have the mummers. The shooters were called the mummers, and they shot, played musical instruments. Sarah had skits and dressed crazy. Now, some of our shooters still dress a little crazy, and I'd like to find a banjo or two, then maybe start playing some music. That'd be pretty cool to go
That would
back.
be very cool.
So, if you look at some of the old pictures, there's banjos in there. So that would be cool. But yeah, it's been going around thousands of years, hundreds of years in the United States, and we're the only place in the United States that I know that it still continues.
It's very unique. And as we've said, this has been going on for years, but this year I have heard that the turnout was quite astounding, up to 500 people.
Yeah, we ran out of our ID badges. We had 500, so we ran out. So we were probably pushing full 520 members, probably.
Wow.
And that would be a record to have over 500 members. But the weather was good. It fell on a Monday, so you had the 3-day weekend. And when that happens, sometimes the numbers are greater, especially if the weather's good. And the weather was perfect this year. A little chilly at night, but it was fine during the day. Now, it did get cold New Year's Day night. At the
Hmm.
stadium, the wind was howling, and it was chilly up there.
And you're also involved as the secretary of the organization. What made you want to be a member of the leadership team?
Well, basically, Hal got me started, and he entrusted me to do some of the paperwork, and also Don Holmesley, and also Boozy Dellinger. They trusted me with the paperwork and also the financial part also, and they entrusted me to handle things because they were not going to be here forever. So they said, "Hey, Rusty, will you help us?" So I started helping them, and of course, an organization, once you start helping, they're not going to tell you no. So I do a lot of the paperwork, for non-paid, and it takes well over $10,000-15,000 just to put this event on.
Wow. That is pretty crazy. Where did those funds go?
Well, we feed our shooters twice, and then we have a host dinner that we have at 1st of February, and we have to have insurance. We rent porta johns for the stadium. We are constantly sending flowers, to deaths, to funerals and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of expense to put on the event.
Yeah, absolutely. And if any citizens are watching this and would maybe want to become involved in the New Year's shooters, how would you recommend that they pursue?
Yeah, the biggest way to get in touch with us or to find out about the Cherryville New Year Shooters is go to our website, cherryvilleshooters.com. And you can see the history, you can see the meeting dates. Our meetings start in December, and usually it's like the first 3 Wednesdays in December. And then we have the last meeting, which is the Pythian Lodge, and we have a dinner there. And that's the last meeting. So the best way is just go to our website.
Okay.
But you have to have a musket. You have to have a musket, a hammer only that shoots caps, percussion caps, no flintlock, no inline hunting rifles. But if you come to a meeting, just like Matt that was here, it's the first time he shot, and he bought a musket, and we showed him how to use it and how to tape it up and that sort of thing.
Awesome. And you've even produced a documentary about the Cherryville New Year's shooters. Where can people find this documentary if they want to learn more?
Well, you can buy a copy off our website, but it's for free on YouTube. Yeah, if you just type in Cherryville New Year's shooters or Rusty Wise, you'll find the documentary. You just type in Cherryville New Year's shooters documentary, and it will come up. And worked on that for a couple years, and that was most of the footage was shot in the year 2000 up at the Cherryville Historical Museum.
Okay. Very cool.
And it's a pretty cool documentary. Shows a little bit about the history. Just got finished last year, end of last year, digitizing some films that Hal Strap had in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And that is also on YouTube, and it's on the website also. If you go to the website and just fish around, you'll see a lot of pictures, a lot of old films, that sort of stuff.
Very interesting. Is there anything you'd like to add, either about your leadership experience with the organization or the event itself?
No, it's a unique event. It's something that you can't really explain until you witness it. It's just like Matt was saying. It's once we start, we are on a schedule. Every 20 minutes we're shooting somewhere. You don't have a whole lot of time, so it's like once the first gun's fired, it's a race to get to the stadium. And when you've got thousands of people, literally thousands of people, it's a job in itself. And this year, since we had such a big crowd, a lot of shooters will go and shoot every other stop because everyone can't make it to each stop because you might have to park a quarter mile away. So they'll go ahead and hop shots,
That
so to
makes
speak.
sense.
But it's a great tradition. It's unique. It's just a way to locally, shoot in the new year, and we do it in Cherryville style, so to speak. It's a unique tradition. It is dangerous. Have to wear hearing protection,
Hmm.
and we haven't had any major injuries. There have been over the years, but nothing major. Of course, every year we have a few broken fingers. Um, maybe a cracked shoulder or something, but nothing major, so to speak.
Nothing to have it stop being a yearly tradition.
No, and that's why we have insurance. And at the stadium, the only people that can be down on the stadium grass or on the level field is shooters themselves. We want the
Hmm.
spectators up in the stands away because we're basically shooting off sticks of dynamite
Right.
in a barrel is basically what we're doing.
Yeah. Want everyone to be safe.
Yeah, yeah. But it's unique tradition, and I see it going on forever. The only thing I see that maybe prohibit it may be the growth, because Cherryville is a rural area, and that's why it's continued because it's rural. I mean, there's no way you could shoot 51 stops in the Charlotte market. You just couldn't do it. So it being rural up in this area is why it has continued. We get a few complaints, but most positive, very few complaints. If you've lived here long enough, to put your dogs up or your cats, and unless you're really close, it sounds like thunder. It's not that loud once you get a block or two away.
Yeah, and it seems like it's such a beloved tradition in this community. I obviously am new to the area, but even when I first started working, just even that first week, people were talking about the shooters, and that was months away, but before New Year's.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, you're gonna have to come next year. You're
oh
out of
yeah,
town this year,
yeah.
so maybe next year we'll get you to shoot a musket.
Oh, I don't know about a musket, but I'll
Oh, well,
definitely shoot some interviews.
be able to have that power in your hands, you might
Yeah,
like it.
I might. I've actually never shot a gun until today when that gentleman brought in the musket. I'd never seen a gun in person. So it's all new to me, but I'm very eager to learn and excited to know about this new tradition.
But yeah, it takes a team. There's roughly 7 of us in the leadership, and if you add the safety people, there's probably 12 to 15 people that it takes to put on the event. It's just not me. There's other people involved. I just kind of do the paperwork and the secretarial type stuff. I do, type up everything and all that stuff. But our president is Charles Sisk, and this was his 75th year.
Wow,
Yes, and he went to every stop.
that is very impressive.
It was his 75th year. Boozy Jr. Is the vice president. I'm secretary. Donnie Alexander is the treasurer. Michael Dellinger is the safety officer. We have other safety officers in there, which is Jordan Bingham, Burgess Beam, Jason Kaiser, and Daniel Richards. Yeah, that's the key people. We have other chanters. Go to our website. We have a lot of chanters. Donnie, Mike Ross. I'm going to miss some people, I'm sure. Yeah, just go to the website. It's got a list of the chanters on there. Um, Little Boozy can say the chant, but he didn't this year. And Donnie, this was the first year he said it at the stadium. Yeah.
That's a pretty sentimental moment, I feel.
It was. It was. I think it was sentimental for Donnie, and Boozy used to say it every year at the stadium, and then he passed away a couple years ago, and we played a recording, but this year Donnie said it in person.
Wow. That's really awesome. And again, it is just such a unique tradition to this area in the way that it's been passed down for so many years. It's truly a testament to, I believe, the residents of Cherryville and surrounding areas to have the drive to keep this going because I feel like more and more you see just traditions falling to the wayside as things get more digitized, as we experience more growth as a nation. So it's really heartwarming to see these traditions kept alive.
I know in the past I've said it was ancient Facebooking because it's basically it's almost a social event, and
Hmm.
all you need some black powder and a musket and caps, and you can go New Year's shooting. You don't need a cell phone. You don't need any technology to go New Year's shooting, and so it's pretty cool. But the chanters, I say, who else? We got Austin Gates. Uh, there's a handful of chanters that we have. I can't Burgess Beam, he chanted. I'm just trying to think. Who else do we have? We have the Chapmans. We got Justin Chapman and Warren Chapman. Just trying to think of all the, and then we have let's see, I'm trying to think now. Young kid, which is Curtis Kester. Yeah. So I think I've got them all.
That's one thing that was really cool to me is that there were little kids up to my knees who were carrying around muskets and shooting.
Yeah, we had a lot of young ones this year, and it keeps growing. A lot of young ones, and we let them go out and shoot first at a lot of the stops. Not every stop, but they would go out. That was cool to see. Yeah, we can't slow the group down too much, but at opportune times we can let the little ones shoot first,
That's very
and it
sweet.
worked good, and we'll continue to do that because your youth is the future of your shooting.
Absolutely. 100%.
But our group has always been one that has been inclusive. We've had female shooting for years. We've had minority shoot. We've had just handicapped people shoot. Just all walks of life shoot. We do not turn anyone down.
There's no discrimination when it comes
No,
to tradition.
no. And I know some people give the rebel flag. I know some of the guys have rebel flags on their guns, and that is something that we've talked about. But some of the muskets themselves are Civil War muskets, and some of those muskets are actually Confederate muskets
Wow.
that were actually in the war. So it has nothing to do with racism. A lot of the guys just put it on there because it's a Civil War gun. So it has nothing to do with that. I mean, we've never even thought about it being a racist group. But some people just gotta say, "Oh, you have a rebel flag." Okay, yeah, but it has nothing to do. It does not symbolize anything, but it's a Confederate gun, and it would be cool, to dress up like the Germans do. In Germany, how they have the little knickers on or
And the
whatever, in the
hats.
hat. I may do that one year. I
You
don't know.
should. You should get yourself some lederhosen. I think that's what they're called.
Yeah, yeah. But it's cool. They have hand cannons over there. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've seen them. They're like a cannon, and they shoot them. It's a hand. They call them hand cannon. There's a German name for hand cannon. That's what they call them.
It kind of looks like a trumpet a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. But I didn't see any guns blow up this year. Didn't see anything. We had, of course, fly out of people's hands, and
Yes.
I think a couple people got hit, but nothing major, no injuries. So it is dangerous. What we do is not safe, but we try to make it as safe as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good that you have those precautions in place so that it can continue to be a tradition.
Yeah, and if you come, wear hearing protection.
Unless you don't want to hear for much longer after that.
Yeah, wear earplugs.
Yeah.
Or earmuffs. You'll need it. But Cherryville New Year Shooter's been around a long time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming into our studio and agreeing to be interviewed.
Yeah, anytime. And we'll put something together here and hope people enjoy our segment. And I hope everyone has a happy 2024.
Happy 2024. No way to ring it in quite like the Cherryville New Year shooting way. And this is actually going to be our first edition of a little series and column that we're trying out called Cherryville, where we're trying to highlight some positive things happening in the Cherryville community. So if you have any ideas, there will be a Google form that you can submit ideas to in the little description box below. Please feel free to submit us some pitches.
Yeah, we're excited about that. Had any ideas, let us know.
Please do. And for the Wise News Network, I'm Grace Smith.
And I'm Rusty Wise, also a guest. What shirt? I've got this shirt on, so I didn't wear my shooter shirt.
Oh, dang, that would have been perfect.
Yeah, or my hat.
But thanks, y'all, for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a great day.